ISAs celebrated their 25th anniversary in April this year, and their relevance has never been greater. The reduction and even the removal entirely of capital gains tax and dividend tax has made it a really appealing way for people to store their money and shelter it from taxation. On top of this, in the last couple of years we've seen rising interest rates, which has seen a resurgence of the ISA for people with cash savings. We've also seen the share of adults paying the higher income tax grow massively over the last couple of decades. In the year of 1991 to 92, just 3.5% of UK adults paid the 40% higher rate of income tax. By the end of 23, 11% of adults were paying higher rates, with that figure set to reach 14% by the end of 2028. The increase in cash interest, coupled that with the higher income tax, has nudged people to move into their ISA accounts to free their money of any taxation. As it stands, there's currently 4 types of ISA here in the UK. We have a cash ISA, stocks and shares ISA, innovative finance ISA, and the lifetime ISA. There's also a 5th if you count the junior ISA as well. Every tax year you can save up to £20,000 in one account or split the allowances across multiple accounts. The tax year runs from the 6th of April till the 5th of April the following year. The key with these accounts is that you do not pay tax on interest on cash within these ISAs. You also do not pay tax on income or capital gains from the investments within any of these accounts, such as market gains and dividend income from a stocks and shares ISA. Essentially, your money is protected from the tax man if you store your money within these accounts. As it stands, nearly 750 billion is held in ISAs owned by UK adults. That includes around 756 billion invested in stocks and shares ISAs and 285 billion in cash ISAs. There's a little bit left over for junior ISAs as well. I also came across this data which I found quite interesting. The amount of ISA users increases throughout the age ranges, but to me this tells a little bit of a different story. I personally think this highlights a bigger problem. There's simply not enough people utilising their ISAs. And it's not like a small amount, we are talking billions. Even that small shift of moving this cash into a high interest cash ISA would pump billions into the UK economy. Now of course this also could mean 2 other things. Possibly a mixture of the 2. Either people are unsure on how and why to use these accounts, but also perhaps there's a large portion of people who don't feel they have enough money to risk in a stocks and shares ISA or enough to store away in a cash ISA. This of course is a bigger problem altogether. The piece we could have a quicker impact on is the education. Currently I believe there's too many different ISA accounts and it makes it a little bit confusing when you're deciding what to go with. Personally don't believe there's enough education going into the younger generations on how they could potentially benefit from these accounts, and that data I just showed you kind of confirms that. As of recent, there's actually been a little bit of noise around that exact thing. AJ Bell has written to Chancellor Rachel Reeves calling for a radical ISA simplification by creating one ISA product. This is off the back of Labour's promise to simplify ISAs in its financial growth paper published back in January. AJ Bell have proposed a new ISA and simplified the regime to combine all ISAs into one single product with a higher allowance of £25,000. This would incorporate cash ISAs, stocks and shares ISAs, junior ISAs and innovative finance ISAs. AJ Bell also want to see a target support scheme launched to promote the value of this regulated advice. Now I personally love this idea and I definitely think it's the way to go. Getting rid of all these different ISAs and making it a lot simpler would make it a lot more appealing to many investors. Ultimately, if we can promote the use of ISAs, this would pump more money into the economy through interest gained on these accounts. Now personally, as someone with varying different ISAs, it'd make a lot more sense and be a lot easier for me if I could handle all those accounts in one place. The other big thing which is being spoke about a lot at the moment is the idea of this new UK ISA. So what do we know about that? The government announced their plan to launch a new ISA called the UK ISA, though you might have heard it being referred to as the British ISA by the media. The new UK ISA will provide an additional £5,000 on top of the already £20,000 ISA allowance. But the key goal with this one is to encourage people to invest in UK assets. The new UK ISA is the government's latest plan to help drive a new culture of saving and investing within the UK. This will help increase capital available to businesses and also pump further interest into the UK economy. They released quite a lengthy document titled Individual Savings Account UK ISA Consultation. I've gone through this document and highlighted some of the key points. The new ISA will utilise the UK recognised stock exchanges. which are the Aquis Stock Exchange, CBOE Europe Limited, and the London Stock Exchange, including Alternative Investment Market, also known as AIM. One point I think most people would be interested in is point 2.6. This summarises the use of collective investment vehicles. These are things like your mutual funds, index funds and ETFs, where it's essentially a collection of investments rather than individual stocks. It states here that to ensure the UK ISA appeals to a range of investors and to increase the choices available to them, the UK proposes that collective investment vehicles could be included in the UK ISA. This, I believe, is really important to get right. I worry that by excluding these collective vehicles, it could really put off a lot of UK investors. Point 3.4 covers the idea of subscribing to more than one UK ISA. Personally, I think this would be a good idea, given that we now have the flexibility to invest in multiple ISA accounts within the same tax year at present. It would be mirroring the current system, which would make things a lot simpler rather than having separate rules for this ISA. Section 3.8 shows that there could potentially be a penalty for those who would see this as an opportunity to store cash within it. These rules should disincentivise investors from holding cash within a UK ISA, other than the purpose of investing. It suggests that there could be some sort of tax on this cash, which, to be honest, I don't disagree with. There are cash ISAs for this reason, so it's not like you're without options if you don't want to invest in UK equities. So what are my thoughts on this new UK ISA? Well, I have two main points, and they're not that positive. So firstly, I understand the reasoning behind the new UK ISA, but I do believe it's slightly flawed. Now, on one hand, encouraging people to invest in British companies is a good thing, because ultimately it pumps more money into the UK economy. However, if you're someone who currently fills their £20,000 allowance, are you really going to want to add an additional £5,000 worth of investment in purely the UK market? The UK currently makes up around 3% of the global economy, so why would I want 20% of my investment to be in such a small market? You'd potentially be cutting yourself away from possible gains from bigger and better performing markets. Secondly, in its current proposed format, I think it just adds a layer of complexity to any new ISA investors. This would take it up to 6 different ISA accounts, which I think just makes it more confusing rather than making it as easy as possible. Could this further push people away from using ISAs altogether? I'm not sure. The whole idea was to gain new investors, but for me, would new investors weigh up their options and think, okay, I can invest in this British ISA, which restricts me, or would I go for a stocks and shares ISA, which allows me to invest in any stocks or markets I want? Seems like a bit of a no-brainer, and people would probably avoid the British ISA. The only people to benefit here are people who are already investing and potentially want further allowance, but that's not really what the goal was for this ISA. It was to bring in new investors, which I don't think it'll do. So what do we do instead? And these are personally my opinions on what needs to take place to make this a success. I think make one ISA which provides various options within it depending on your saving or investment goals. The platform should have a heavy focus on education. Even small things like a pop-up with a video clip explaining each arm of the ISA would be encouraging for new investors. Secondly, I think the idea of a UK ISA comes from a good place, but it's not being drawn back to the core reason for its requirement. I think for this to be a hit, first you have to make the UK a good place to invest. Perhaps bring in a further tax incentive for investing in the UK companies, or other perks. As it stands, the UK market isn't considered to be one of the best markets to invest, so there has to be another reason for people to invest here. For me, that sits at the core of whether this new ISA would be a success or not. Now, of course, these are simply my views. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments section. I'd be interested to know how you feel about these proposed changes to the ISA system. Perhaps you have other suggestions or improvements that could be made. If you found this video helpful, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really does help the growth of this channel in its early stages. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.